Hey again, guys. Want to jump in here. Jason and I were talking. We decided we want to start trying to do a weekly recap for you guys. Just a little short video to pop on the end of every week to kind of go over the runs that we've done, the miles we're getting, the deadhead we're doing each week, so that y'all can kind of get an idea of how we're running and the types of miles and things we're getting. Now, keep in mind what we're doing may not be the same as what you're doing or what you would get once you get out into expediting. There's a lot of different factors that'll determine that, but this will kind of give you an idea of how we're running and what we're doing each week. So I have some notes here, so I apologize if I keep looking down, but I've made some notes of each load that we did this week so I can kind of give you a recap on that. And I apologize if I sound a little funny. I've been a little under the weather the last day or two, so bear with me on that. So this week, which was the February 15th to February 22nd, we did 3 loads for the week. We did a total of loaded miles of 2,026 miles. Our deadhead miles for those 3 loads was 985 miles. Now, that's a lot of deadhead. Our deadhead, we had about 48% deadhead versus our loaded miles. And I'm going to break down those loads and kind of give you our reasoning for taking those loads and why the deadhead was so much. So the first run that we did for the week, our first one was our first run right after home time. So it was a run that went from Texas to Oklahoma. The loaded miles on that run was 461 miles. The deadhead miles were 179 miles. Now the deadhead was 39% of the run, but we got paid $1.30 a mile to do those deadhead miles. Now, I'm not going to go over what our rate per mile is on these loads just because our rate varies depending on what type of load it is we're doing, and it's going to vary for you as well depending on the carrier you work for. If you're a cargo van, tractor trailer, those rates vary. So I'm not going to get into our actual rates per loaded mile, but I will talk about the deadhead rate that we're getting. Now that load, excuse me, it was a hazmat load. The miles weren't that great, and normally we wouldn't have taken a load to Oklahoma just because it's not a really good area to get out of. But for us, where this load was going, it was a place that Panther does a lot of business with, and we felt very confident we would get a load out. And we did get a load offer that was going to be a backup load offer taking us out, but it fell through because what had happened is it was one that was picking up and they wanted us to sit on it for 4 or 5 days before we delivered, and that just wouldn't have worked for us. But we did end up getting another one out, and that's our second load I'll talk about in a minute. Another thing of a lot of these runs for this week, February is a really slow time for expediting, and you can't be as picky on the loads as you normally would when it is the busy time. So these loads we took made sense for us, and that's why we ended up taking them. For some of you may think, golly, that's a lot of deadhead for the miles you're doing. But for us, we have to look at the big picture of, what the bottom line is. If we're making a certain rate per mile for everything on that run and it makes sense for us, we're not going to take a run where we're losing money by any means, whether it's slow or busy. So, and that's something to keep in mind when you're accepting loads. So the second run that we did for the week, it was a load picking up in Illinois going to New York State. It was loaded miles was 980 miles. Our deadhead miles was 648 at $1.30 a mile on that deadhead. Now, the deadhead percentage, it was 66% of the loaded miles, and that is a lot. And normally we would not have taken that load. Excuse me. They had originally offered us $1 a mile on the deadhead. We asked for $1.40, and we ended up kind of in the middle at $1.30. So keep in mind, you can negotiate those rates on your deadhead. Don't just settle for what they're offering you. But that load, the reason that we took this load is it's a customer that gives Panther a lot of business. And again, the bottom line that we were making made sense to us, and it was going to a good area we knew we would get something out of. So that's why we took that load. The third and final load for the week is a load that's gone from New York State to North Carolina. Loaded miles on that run is 585 miles. The Deadhead miles was 158 miles at $1.53 a mile for those Deadhead miles. The Deadhead was 26% of the loaded miles. Now that's really good deal on the Deadhead miles. The Deadhead rate right now, just the national for straight trucks, I can't talk today. The regular Deadhead rate right now is 19 cents a mile. So getting $1.53 a mile on the Deadhead, that's really, really good. So again, this is a load, it's not a lot of miles, but the bottom line pay is really good for us, and it's going to a good area where we know we're gonna get something out of there and not have to sit. So just to recap again, we did 3 loads this week. Our total loaded miles was 2,026 miles. Deadhead total miles was 985 miles. So that gave us around 3,000 miles for the week with our loaded and Deadhead miles total. Now keep in mind, you know, I was giving you the rates on those Deadhead miles that we got. Not everybody is going to get that. Now we got really lucky with those amounts just because they didn't have any other team in the area that were able to do those particular runs. And that goes back again to being really, really important to get all the qualifications you can in this business. You know, hazmat, all of those things we talked about in our qualifications video. When you are their only option for a run, they're going to pay you to do that run. So I don't want you to get the misconception that you're going to get out here and you're going to be making $1.30 a mile on the Deadhead. That's not always the case. And that's not always the case for us either. We just happened to get lucky this week. We were in the right area. They didn't have anybody else that could do those particular runs. So we were able to get those higher Deadhead rates. So keep that in mind. Qualifications are very important. So again, I don't want to make this video really long, just wanted to do a really quick recap, and I'll do this every week for y'all. I hope that y'all will like that, so you can kind of see what we're doing and how we're running and kind of give you an idea. But just keep in mind the way we run may not be the exact same for you. Have any questions, leave it down in the comments. We'll be happy to answer those. You can always email us, find us on Facebook. And as always, thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you in our next video.